we're back at part two. I'm with Pam Kastner, who is teaching me how to say her last name. And you think, see, this is what the adult dyslexics are like. You have a pretty easy last name to spell, and I can't do it.
That, okay.
All right. So, how did you get into education? I know education is near and dear, and you want to do it your whole life. So, how'd that happen?
Probably a common story, honestly. Had a great teachers in elementary school, right? And ever since then, pretty much that's all I ever wanted to be was a teacher. So, some people get really lucky in their life and they get to work at what they never feel is work. And so I'm one of those lucky ones, right? So have wanted to be a teacher my whole life, having a teacher my whole life, will be a teacher my whole life. So yeah, that's how it started, second grade, Miss Sullivan. And the fun thing is years and years and years later, I got to speak at that school, and I didn't know she was in the audience, and I was just introducing myself a little bit and shared like the reason I had become a teacher initially was because of Miss Sullivan, and she was in the audience. So that was a pretty special moment. So,
Isn't that
you know,
beautiful? So teachers
oh yeah,
teachers are the pebble in the pond,
they
and
are.
they're the pebble in the pond, and where those ripples go off to. And what we have, and I talk about this all the time. I mean, I love educators. The educators go into the business. They have a good heart. They have empathy. But what we have in our great nation is a systems failure of people just not necessarily knowing how to teach kids. So okay, we have the inciting incident, second grade, Miss Sullivan. Wow, I love
Yeah.
her. I want to be like her. Okay, that's cool. So then you go into middle school. You still want to be a teacher. You wanted to be a rock star at one time, didn't you? All right, I'm just making that up.
No,
Okay,
no,
country western singer. Okay, but then by the time you
that
get
was Louisa. That was Louisa.
okay, that was Louisa. That is true. That is we are like a
Hmm.
cult. We know these things. So after high school, you went to
I went
university.
to college. I went to university to be a teacher. Yep, and did my student teaching in second grade, right down the street actually from where I live, which was real nice. And then, got married. Going to wait 7 years to have children, and got pregnant 7 weeks after I got married. So,
Well, you're not a math teacher, right? You're not a math teacher because 7 weeks, 7 years.
no,
No.
no, no. So there's a little gap there when my son was little, but then got to be a teacher. And most of my career, when I was in the classroom, I was a kindergarten teacher.
Nice.
So the best still. And I was a reading specialist and district data coordinator. I ended up by serendipity, someday, Harvey, we'll have a drink. And I'll tell you the long story of how I ended up working at the state level because I really should still be in that kindergarten classroom, would be very happy there. But distinguished educators, I was in the first cohort that was selected were those who worked in the highest risk school districts in the state, and then were embedded in those schools long term to support systems change and changes in outcomes, in my case, in literacy. And then moved out of my home actually for 3 years and lived in a hotel. And then went back to my school district to support. And then I was asked to interview other potential DEs and ended up being next to the director at Patton. And they said, you really should need to come back or work at the state level. So I did. So
Wait a minute.
that was a tough
I
decision.
want to. I mean, we just went way into the future, but I want to. So, a kindergarten teacher, I think
Yeah.
any nation's greatest resource is their youth, and the kindergarten teacher, you're building a foundation of people. My kindergarten teacher's name was Mrs. Wells, and I think she was really cool. I knew her in 1964. So,
Yeah.
you went from a kindergarten teacher. What was the reason that you became? What was the reason you became a reading specialist?
I became a reading specialist because I had kids in my class who couldn't read, and I was under the false impression at that point, given where I went for my certification, that doing so would help me be a more effective read teacher and ensure that all kids could read. I also am a recovering reading recovery trained teacher as well. So, but
Well,
I
how'd that work out? I mean, all of a sudden now you're a teacher. So wait a minute. I'm telling the story here.
okay,
So
okay,
you're in Mrs. Sullivan's class. You say, "Wow, teachers are great. Teachers teach people how to read." You you grow up. You are no longer in second grade. You eventually get to college. You go off to be
yeah.
teaching. They scoot you out the door. You go into a kindergarten class and some kids, whatever they tell you in university is not working, but you get reading recovery and a couple other things, and maybe that's not working. So what's that like? What's that time like?
Oh,
All of a
that's
sudden it's not
hard.
working. All of a sudden it's not working.
Well, I'm not unusual like many teachers. It's really hard because, I mean, all teachers go into teaching because they want to ensure that kids are successful, right? And so it's really hard when you're a teacher and then you go for more training, which you think is going to equip you to be better equipped at teaching kids to read. And then there's always these kids that you just, gosh, I'm trying everything I know and it's not working. It's very difficult because it's, learning to read is pretty important. And we all know that. And also we know how kids feel when they can't read. And so it is your responsibility. It's a moral imperative. So what happens when you can't do it? It's really, really hard. And so you just keep trying, you keep reading, you keep going to classes. Perpetual learner. I just kept trying to learn what I was being told would help me be more effective, and it wasn't working.
So
So,
you took matters into your own hand. You keep
so
trying and trying and trying.
yeah. Yep. So letters, like many people, it's, changed the course of my life. It's changed many lives. Thank you, Dr. Moats, Dr. Tolman, and so many other national trainers who
Wait a
wrote.
minute. So okay, so all of a sudden you get to meet Carol Tolman, Louisa
I don't,
Moats.
no, I don't, yeah, yeah, yeah. Eventually, yes, I did. I had the honor of meeting and getting to know Dr. Moats, Dr. Tolman, Nancy Hennessy, J.M. Sedita, Judy Dodson, Mary Dahlgren, Antoni Fierro, all the the legacy, Lynn Kuhn, all the people that started letters. So, um, it's the knowledge of the science of reading, of structured literacy, of Zig Engelman, direct instruction. That knowledge was completely foreign to me. And it's foreign to so many teachers. It hasn't been part of their higher ed institutions. We trusted our higher ed institutions. We trusted our professors that they had the knowledge and they were imparting what was most effective to us. And it just wasn't true. So, it changed my life. It changed my life. But
So now it changed your life. They take you out of the school system and you're working with the state. That's when you went to the state.
yep, I went to the state and then worked in school systems. We, as distinguished educators, were mostly retired superintendents, curriculum directors, systems level people. There were only two teachers that were selected in the state, and I was one of them, and I still can't believe that happened. So we worked across the state, and then we were then embedded in particular school districts as teams over time to help the system improve to ensure that all students learned. And so, yeah, so I did that for 3 years. So that was, again, another kind of like life-altering life experience.
Hey Pam,
Um,
Pam, I get to ask the dumb questions here because
okay,
I'm
not done. There is no
I
dumb question, right?
no I well let's find out. Let me ask some questions first. How come they don't
Okay.
if you just went through all of this, you were a lifelong educator. You wanted to be your whole life. You wanted to be an educator. Then you've been an educator, and as you said, you're gonna stay an educator. So, wouldn't it be easier if they just taught us this stuff at the university? I mean, you wouldn't have to go. I mean, there's casualties. I mean, they say it's not the reading wars, but there's casualties. There's kids that don't learn to read in first grade, second grade, third grade, and their self-esteem is here, and the teachers don't know how to fix it. It's like it's like casualties that you can't stop the bleeding from. You can't fix the sprain. You can't fix the broken limb. So, um, doesn't it seem easier? And how does your bill, the bill that we were talking about in the last thing, doesn't it seem that we could do better at the schools and the universities? I mean, talk to me about that. It's not a dumb question because why aren't we? Why aren't
It's a
we?
root cause. It's a root cause. There's no doubt about that. I mean, letters exist because, teachers did not get this knowledge in higher ed. So, Act 55, the earlier bill that did pass and has been passed now for some time, and the support that the coalition provided through the summit that we did in 2023 and the ongoing professional learning community, did support higher ed and making these changes, and they will be embedded beginning this school year, structural literacy courses. And certainly we're not the only state, and certainly not the first who's done that. And so, yes, let's be proactive. So much of what teachers should be continuing the professional learning on is what the foundation of what we have learned in letters. We should be building upon that rather than that is as Dr. Motes calls it, the starting line, not the finish line. And I teach at Mount St. Joseph University in the doctoral program. I earned my doctorate, and I've been teaching at Mount St. Joseph in the reading science program there. And Mount St. Joseph is preeminent university in the country in teaching reading science. But we need, and Stephanie Stoller, you probably know her.
Love her.
She's been leading. Yeah, she's easy to love, and I love her too. She is also at Mount St. Joseph, certainly there before I was. She's the one that asked me if I would consider teaching there, and it was out of her mouth in less than, I don't know, 1/100th of a second later, I said yes. But she's been leading an effort across the country to support higher ed institutions, and it's STARS, Stronger Together, the Alliance for Reading Science for higher ed. She's been spearheading that. It's through Mount St. Joseph's Center for Reading Science for some time, because we know it's going to take it's like a coalition too, like a multi-pronged approach. No one's going to be able to tackle this really important, I don't know if you want to call it an issue or a moral imperative or social justice issue independently. It's going to take higher ed. It's going to take our legislators. It's going to take families. It's going to take educators. It's going to take foundations to tackle this, because all you have to do is look at our NAEP scores for the last 30 years to see this is an entrenched problem that's been accepted as a norm. And why can we accept that as a norm? But it's going to take a multi-level approach of everyone working together, and certainly higher ed plays a part in that.
Hey, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but and you don't have to. Do you have the statistics, and do you know the numbers off the roundup numbers?
I mean, in terms of like NAEP scores?
Yeah.
Yeah, 36. Yeah, sure. 36% of our fourth graders, and right around that, I think it's 38%. Eighth graders are reading at proficiency levels. That's
38%.
38%. Over the decades, 1992, when NAEP, we started NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the nation's report card. And, that's been consistent. I show the bar graphs over 3 decades. And the thing is, Harvey, honestly, it's like when I share those, it's like how people act like, oh, we didn't know. Like, how do we not know these things? And then now some people, there's no doubt, some people know, when did we accept that as the norm? That's what I asked them. When did we accept that as the norm, that decade after decade, time after time, we're getting the same results and we accept that as the norm? why are we not outraged by that? And like in some ways, maybe COVID was a silver lining because our kids have regressed even further, and so now all of a sudden people are waking up to say, "Oh my gosh, they're even further behind." But what I want to say is, where were you the last 30 years? This data is not new, and when did we say, "Oh yeah, that's what we thought we'd get"? Sure, and when do we accept that? And those are average scores. There's many places where you can go where those numbers are much lower. And we know that they're much lower for our students who are, marginalized. So this is what I don't understand. When did we accept this for our nation's children?
Well,
And
marginalized means a lot of different things. There's
yeah,
black and brown skinned people. There's zip codes. There's railroad tracks on one side of the track. There's those people are people. There's people who speak second language. Their parents speak one language, and the teachers speak another one. But anyway, enough about you. Let's talk about me. This is my last film I'm ever making. I'm getting involved in the airline business. I'm getting involved, and I'm looking for money. Yeah, I'm looking for money for airline business. We're going to start an airline called Good Enough Airlines. And yep, it's true. And you can be an early investor. 38% of our planes will get you there. And
yeah.
the rest are like,
Until we get on the plane.
and yeah, you'll see when you don't know until you get on the plane if you're going to get there or not. So I figure it's Good Enough Airlines. If it's good enough for if it's good enough for our kids, it's good enough for your
Yeah.
flight to wherever you're going. So that's right. So when did it happen, and why do we allow it to happen? But that's what I think with this coalition, and the several coalitions that you have. You see, if you look back 10, 15, 25 years ago, it wasn't all there, and it takes guys like you, heroes like you, that have been knocked down a couple times. You get back up with the rest of your team, and you just rebuild, and then you look over at these other groups and you say, hey, wait a minute, the people who are helping out the educators and the people who are helping out the parents are the same people.
Yes, you tend to see the same worker bees.
You kind of see the same worker bees, and it's the same.
Yeah.
You said this earlier that your story, and your story is similar but unique, but unique as well, because you want to separate yourself and get out there, and you want to run into the burning barn and save kittens, which is
I do. I do, and bring people with me to save as many kittens as we can.
that's exactly right. And kittens are cute.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so I love this, and I love what you're doing, and you've certainly worked with a lot of Mount Rushmores of the industry,
I've been
and
very, yes.
and you guys are really you're making a difference. So what do we expect is going to happen next year? Wait a minute, just let me just you guys are going to get ready to go back to Harrisburg. You're gonna take your pitchforks and torches, and
We are.
I don't know, but metaphysically, metaphorically,
Yeah. No,
metadata.
I mean, I think it's always good to build bridges first and
You,
foremost, to build bridges and coalitions, that's for sure. But sometimes you have to also you take any route that is necessary and ethical to meet your goals.
and so one of those things, routes that are necessary and ethical, is for legislators, elected officials, to hear from the people, we the people, and so another reason it's important for people to come to the coalition and to contact you guys, any of you guys at whatever level, is
Any of them.
and any level is like, I mean, I think parents doing testimonies and having kids doing
Yeah.
testimonies, and
Yeah.
taking the old iPhone out and just telling your story to the iPhone, and
Hmm.
sending it to a place. So I think that's important. Now, how do people keep in touch with what's going on? What are the sites that we should look at? Decoding Dyslexia.
Going to Dyslexia Pennsylvania, the Reading League Pennsylvania, PBIDA, Everyone Reads PA. Read by Fourth, Teach Plus, Excel in Ed. I think I mentioned Decoding Dyslexia Pennsylvania. So any of those that I mentioned, and probably some that I haven't, like Reading Aloud is another wonderful organization in the Philadelphia area. Reach out. There are advocates everywhere. It's almost like Mr. Rogers used to say, when there, I remember he had a saying about when there's a crisis, look for the helpers. Look for the helpers. They're out there. And there's a lot of us. We all want to help. And we can make a bigger difference, I think, when we help together. But I do think that that families have, and parents and kids or adults who have dyslexia, their voices are especially powerful because they have that first-hand experience of, because I think some people think it's just an academic thing. Oh, they have problems reading or they see things backwards. There's a lot of myths out there, but in addition to the academic impacts that result from dyslexia or any reading challenge, it's the whole child and the whole family and the whole community ultimately that's influenced by a child that has difficulty reading. Like one way I open some of my presentations is to ask people to think about and then talk with someone near them how different their life would be if they could not read. And because I want to put them in the shoes, even briefly, if I can, of that child or that adult. What does that feel like? How would your life be different? Would you have the job you have? Would you have the house you have? Would you have the friends that you have? How would you feel about yourself? Would you travel as much? Would you be as independent? So you have to think about not just the academics, and I shouldn't say just because it is a profound just, but it permeates every part of your life. And I know that because I've watched my granddaughter go through it, right? And I've watched kids go through it. And as a teacher, I've had to struggle watching children when I didn't know better to help them and see how the impact it has on them. So I want them to just live in that space for a moment, because those decisions, when we see states that have really moved, invariably what you often find is they had a family member who has dyslexia or they have dyslexia. So they know in an intimate way, and that spurs action.
Well, I think the other thing I would just want to layer what you're saying is, and I say this to everybody, and everybody knows now that I'm dyslexic, but I think but 10, 15 years ago, before Decoding Dyslexia was saying the word dyslexia at every gas station and every supermarket and every PTA meeting, and people. So now people believe in that. But I think championing the cause that there's a lot of reasons that people can have reading problems, not just dyslexia. Yeah. But dyslexia is a large population. But we're failing people. We're failing people on all levels, and a lot of different. Maybe not on all levels. We're failing people on many levels and a lot of different fronts. And I think it's the other people that are coming up and would talk and give testimonials to you guys. Are, as I said, you moved to this country. Everybody at your family speaking one language at home. They want the greater good. They're working really hard. They send the kid to kindergarten, first grade. That's where the kid hears the majority of our language, of English. Mm-hmm. There's many different reasons. Shy kids. That's my favorite one is shy kids, because we put shy kids in Hopeville and followed them around with TV cameras. So the whole idea, it's many different ways, but we're all in this together. We're all coalition building, and we all can make a difference. And so for them to tie in with any of the coalition groups that you said, and just make testimonials, just to tell their story, so legislators can hear it.
Yeah, we actually just did. We all made testimonials for for the education budget. So now we're talking about no, we didn't achieve what we wanted to yet. I want to say that yet with a big announcement or yell it or shout it. But we're saying, what can we do with all those videos? How can we continue to leverage them in some ways? Because we did Reading Week Pennsylvania, all of them, DDPA, all, Excel and Ed, Teach Plus, Everyone Reads PA, everyone, Read by Fourth, they all made videos that we, put forth to advocate for funding through the education budget for structure that are, it didn't have the intended outcome yet, but how can we leverage those? I love the word yet.
Yeah.
Yet is a wonderful word. How can we leverage them and then build on that to continue our advocacy in coalition work?
Well, I think that's important. We just got the one that the legislator made, Jess McKee, sent us one, and we're going to put that up as a PSA on our site as well. And just
Probably Jason Ortatai. Yeah,
who's a?
I'm guessing it might be Jason Ortatai. He's been a very strong advocate for structural literacy in Pennsylvania.
That's perfect. So, okay, last thoughts, closing comments. What are the thoughts we want people to be thinking of? There's a lot. You've said a lot. There's a lot going on, and your state is a microcosm of our country. But right now, we know that you guys you've had some victories. You've had a couple setbacks. And you guys are going again. So, and that's a beautiful thing because kids are learning how to read and they need to know how to read, and you guys are superheroes.
Oh, I don't think anyone would describe themselves that way, but I think that we're just going to continue to work for kids. It's an honor for every single one of us, and we'll keep at it until, like you said, every child can read in Pennsylvania and beyond. So. Yeah, just a great honor to talk to you. I feel, again, really blessed to just be a small part in this big, important work. So thanks for the conversation.
Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for all the hard work and all these little drops together. They overflow the bucket, and who knows what we do? We could break a dam. So I certainly appreciate your time today and all the hard work you're doing, and I'm looking forward to our next conversations wherever they're going to be. Cool?
Yeah, sounds good, Harvey.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Boom.